How much do you believe in yourself? And is that belief enough? As I try and make sense of this crazy time we find ourselves in, with more uncertainty than ever before, I find myself questioning whether startup entrepreneurship is the right thing for me right now. I'm at an interesting crossroad at the moment where I'm debating going back to corporate or seeing just how deep I can sink financially before closing shop and calling it a day. A lot of entrepreneurs who left great jobs to pursue dreams of starting their own businesses are probably having the same debate with themselves as revenue streams dry up and rising expenses continue to add an incredible amount of pressure. No doubt, we all believe in the product and services we have innovated and all the great brands we have created. No doubt we believe in the teams of people we have built our businesses around. No doubt we all have belief in the great client relationships we have established. But these are some unforgiving times with dire economic prospects for small businesses. So the question is, how much do you believe in yourself? How much do you believe in yourself to navigate these unforgiving times, and is that belief enough? Believing in yourself is important, and I've always believed in myself greatly. Otherwise, I would never have been able to take the plunge to start my own businesses in the first place and continue to bounce back and fight harder every time I get knocked down or lose a client or fail at a venture. Believing I could learn something and be good enough to put it all out in the open is what drove me to pick up a camera and start putting together content like this. Anyone who has ever taken the time to pour everything they have into a business profile and send that profile to prospective clients will attest to the courage that takes and the thick skin you need to have not to allow rejection to cripple you, but use it as a textbook to refine your approach and get better. I admire my self-belief, and I'm sure as you look back at your accomplishments as a startup entrepreneur, you will undoubtedly admire yours too. However, as I think deeper about the reality of this moment we are in, I've come to the sober realization that as important as this self-belief is, it's not enough to see us through these trying times. Any startup entrepreneur who blindly holds on to nothing else but the self-belief is really underestimating what they're up against. Here are 4 things I think every startup entrepreneur needs over and above self-belief to start making the right calls for this incredibly challenging time we need to navigate. Number 1, perspective. You have to believe in yourself to take risks and continue to have the optimistic outlook that has seen you overcome some of the darkest moments in your life. But now, more than ever, you also need to have perspective. Firstly, you need to have financial perspective. My last corporate job before I became a full-time startup entrepreneur was in the financial services sector as a banker. My experience as a banker gave me 2 life-changing revelations. Firstly, the power of liquidity, and secondly, the importance of managing risk. I had quite a few clients who were either corporate professionals looking to finance a startup or a venture, or had been running their businesses for several years and were looking for growth finance. But it didn't matter how confident they were or how much they believed in themselves and their business venture. The only thing that mattered to the bank was how likely it was for shit to hit the fan and how much access to liquidity they would have if shit were to hit the fan. Liquidity refers to how easily you can access cash in the short term or how quickly you can convert your assets into cash. The basic premise of business is that cash is king. And the more liquidity you had or had access to, the easier it became to get the required capital for your venture. But cash is not just important for business. It's important for survival. And make no mistake, this pandemic we're in right now is all about survival. And if you're not taking out your calculators and your spreadsheets to work out how much liquidity you have access to in the next 18 to 24 months, then you and your business will simply not survive. If you have exhausted your lines of credit, do not have short-term assets you can quickly convert to cash, then you need to start thinking about getting a job to help keep yourself and your business alive. Now, I know a lot of entrepreneurship evangelists are too afraid to talk about this important truth, but motivational mumbo jumbo is not what makes great entrepreneurs. The reality is, if you're not thinking strategically about your liquidity situation, no amount of self-belief will help you navigate this economic kamikaze. Risk management is all about mitigating uncertainty. In other words, a bank will not put money into any area without a degree of certainty around getting the money back and having the financial security in place to call on when reality becomes far worse than what is expected. In these highly uncertain times, if you have exhausted all your liquidity options and you're a couple of months away from financial Armageddon, then you need to sober up, start cutting all your expenses, and get back onto the job market today. The other bit of perspective you may need to grab a hold of is how little the opinion of others is going to help you navigate this challenging economic climate. This is extremely difficult for people who left great corporate jobs to start their own businesses, because what the world doesn't see is how your success up until you decided to start a business is funded by your corporate job. The life you live and the car you drive and the apartment you live in and the clothes you wear is all funded by your corporate job. The world is impressed with a false image of your entrepreneurial prowess and how great your business life looks, not realizing the image you were advertising was funded by your corporate job. This is why I hate the internet videos of people trying to sell you the allure of their business by showing you private jets and flashy cars, and impressionable young minds get sold startup entrepreneurship for the wrong reasons. And when things go awry, like what's currently happening in the world, then people feel too ashamed to make the right financial decisions because of how poor those decisions will make them look to the people they're desperate to impress. Now, more than ever, you need perspective to realize that this is your life, fam. This is your life, no one else's. The only thing that matters in this entrepreneurship journey is the people you seek to serve with your products and services, starting with yourself. So go off social media if you have to, block certain contacts if that gives you like peace of mind you need to make the important right calls today, because the people showing you love in the comment section of your post, at Rockets celebrating new clients with expensive salads and champagnes, ain't gonna help you with a cent when you're struggling to make rent. Perspective. Number 2, humility. More than self-belief, what has helped me navigate uncertainty is humility. I've seen people quit jobs with savings to last them only 3 months to pursue entrepreneurship prospects with misguided overconfidence. I've also seen people leave corporate jobs on terrible terms because they thought they were the best thing since fresh white bread with tea and rama on winter mornings. 2 things. 1, I don't care how pretty or smart you are, you're not going to build a business that will realistically pay you what you were getting in your corporate high-flying job in 3 months. 2, you have to understand that the currency that helps you navigate everywhere in life, more especially in business, are relationships. So never ever shit where you eat because you think you're a superstar who can get paid anyway. Humble yourself. Admit you were wrong, show remorse, and ask for forgiveness where required, or life will be forced to humble you the hard way. There's no honor in holding on to a dead business that has no prospects of turning around and is causing your financial, physical, emotional, and mental health to deteriorate. If it means getting a job that doesn't pay you nearly as much as your old job used to, but covers your living expenses while giving you the flexibility to put your business on life support, then do whatever it takes to stay in the game. Stop putting success on a ridiculously high pedestal. In this current climate, staying alive, having food, having a roof over your head, and means to require very little to be happy is success. And stop treating failure like a dirty word. Be humble enough to understand you are human with a lot of limitations, and sometimes you gotta take a few punches until you get strong enough to throw some of your own. Number 3, connections. As much as I believe in myself and will continue to believe in myself, I would never have made it to where I am today if it weren't for other people close to me, not only believing in me, but also giving me some harsh truths that were difficult to hear at the time, but in retrospect, saved my life. The other day I was on a Zoom call with a few of my friends, and I shared the raw truth of how when I left my corporate job to pursue full-time startup entrepreneurship, I had no idea what I was doing and what I was going to do. I just wanted to learn as much as possible. I wanted to go to spaces I cared about to find problems I could solve that intersected with my ideals and that I could build commercially viable businesses out of. Me sharing how comfortable I was with not knowing reassured them to understand that we are all on a journey of figuring out this life thing. And you don't have to have all the answers and have your life all figured out at a certain age. Being connected and sharing experiences also showed me how fluid life is. And all we need is the right amount of support around us to trust the magic of new beginnings. The people in my networks are what inspire me to learn every day and never get to a point where I feel like I know all there is about life and entrepreneurship. The other community that is extremely important to me is you guys. I have an intense love-hate relationship with social media. I hate the metrics and some of the cloud-chasing, meaningless babble I see on my feeds. But I love creating and putting together content like this, which I believe is valuable for our community. So thank you for staying connected and giving me the platform to help guide us along our entrepreneurial journeys, whether as startup entrepreneurs or as corporate entrepreneurs. You're the real MVPs, and I appreciate you very, very much. I'm not the most popular guy out there, but I'm incredibly grateful for the networks I've built, and I can't stress enough the importance of striving to be on good terms with as many people as possible, especially in the places you've worked or had business dealings. These are incredibly scary times, and no one should face them alone, but more importantly, you are going to need all the referrals and references you can get. So send those emails, be vulnerable with your situation if you have to, and don't be afraid to ask where you can help and recommendations for where your services can be utilized. Having business conversations with some of my friends who work in large companies has also shown me how valuable some of the skills and experiences I have accumulated as a startup entrepreneur are. And how many companies are looking for the self-starting, problem-solving, and client relationship building character traits innate in startup entrepreneurs. So start reaching out to your networks to help you put your business accomplishments and entrepreneurial capabilities onto your CV. Number 4, honesty. As much as we have high amounts of self-belief, we also have to be honest with ourselves and stop selling lies. We've all seen the bogus posts about how entrepreneurs work their own hours and have the luxury to work only when they feel like it. Maybe you've shared similar posts after proudly putting founder, managing director, or entrepreneur in your bio to impress your followers and look down on your corporate counterparts who are working every day from 8 to 5. But if we're being honest, you and I both know that our corporate counterparts actually have the better deal. Startup entrepreneurs work way longer hours, work on weekends, and don't have the luxury to take any leave days, especially in the beginning. Especially as a lean startup where you don't yet have the luxury to raise huge amounts of capital to employ people, you are putting in long hours whether you feel like it or not. If you're young and have the energy and can see the bright prospects of the enterprise on the horizon, then you can stomach the diets of hustle and noodles. The reality of a lot of startup entrepreneurs, particularly those who left corporate jobs to pursue building a business, is that you're not as young as you used to be, and prospects seem gloomy for your business at the moment. A lot of you might have started families and taken on bigger responsibility. There's no shame in subsidizing your hustle with a corporate job that will give your time some structure and allow you to take care of your family while you explore your entrepreneurship options. The other lie you've probably heard or told yourself is how startup entrepreneurs can't work for anyone else and have to be their own boss. Again, I'm sure you've seen the posts of seemingly very wealthy people tell you they don't answer to anyone, right? If you're taking advice from wealthy people based on how they live currently and not how they got to where they are, then your startup entrepreneurship journey was doomed from the onset. The honest reality is that you're always working for someone. Always. You're working for your clients and customers, you're working for, your team of employees, you're working for your business partners, you're working for your investors. Look, your title might be managing director, but you're always working for someone. And I admit, some bosses are shit, and you definitely shouldn't tolerate abuse of any kind from anyone. But don't fall on your startup entrepreneurship sword and jeopardize your health, your family's well-being, and your business prospects because you refuse to work for anyone else. You need to grow up and realize that there are many paths towards ultimately living your purpose, and lying to yourself won't serve that purpose. So kudos to yourself for believing in yourself this much, but understand that to survive, self-belief is not enough. And be very clear that this very moment we find ourselves in is all about survival. So I urge you to put aside pride and motivational mumbo jumbo and do whatever it takes to survive.